Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, it is a great pleasure for me to welcome you at the Embassy of the Republic of Poland to the webinar promoting women in business in the dynamically developing economic sector of FinTech. FinTech has become a leading factor in the transformation of the financial sector on a global scale for both startups as well as mature financial institutions. Poland is the biggest fintech market in the Central and Eastern Europe. According to the research by Deloitte, the fintech market in Europe is worth about 2.2 billion euros, of which almost 860 million euros derives from Poland. Our country shines, especially in the field of contactless payment and financial platforms. In the fintech industry, Polish banks are among the most innovative in the world, but also non-banking fintech has been developing dynamically and efficiently for years. Today, Poland is called the back office of London. Global financial institutions such as Credit Suisse, UBS, Citi, and Bank of New York Mellon, and many others have located in Poland their outsourcing centers. Brexit has only accelerated this process and opened up chances for intercepting some fintechs to Poland as an alternative or parallel location. Poland has a great potential to become one of the key fintech hubs in Europe. We are creating a unique economic climate conducive to financial innovation with a great balance between openness and security. The research clearly shows that if companies want to be competitive, they need to focus on the gender equality. Among 32 countries, according to the study by Grant Thornton, Poland is in the forefront of the world, and in 2020 took the third place when it comes to appreciating women professionally and promoting them to managerial positions. There are more and more active women in business. Currently, 4 out of 10 businesses registered in Poland are companies run by women. Most women businesses are created out of passion and the will to be creative. Enterprises run by women are characterized by greater stability in prices, sales levels, and financing standing. Women in business are more open to diversity and allow different opinions to be heard. They are also more optimistic than men. They are less likely to make very risky decisions and usually prefer to protect themselves. Also, in each situation, they have a different plan of action, prepared in advance in the event of a failure of the basic strategy. Ladies and gentlemen, recent years have been a period of unprecedented dynamics of changes in the financial world. Today, you will hear about the changes from the outstanding women from Poland and Sweden, who personally advanced innovations and transformation of fintech sector. The webinar will be an opportunity not only to present the position and successes of women in fintech and discuss the possibility of cooperation between Poland and Swedish businesses, but we will also define existing obstacles in fintech in order to give a clear message to the decision makers on challenges, barriers, and expectations of different points of view in fintech in Poland and in Sweden. Our panelists will try to answer the following questions. Where are the greatest challenges and threats in fintech after COVID? What are the greatest opportunities for fintech after COVID? How do you see the future of fintech? Is fintech sector women friendly? I would like here to extend my gratitude to the excellent panelists, excellent speakers, and moderator, excellent moderator, for their engagement in the webinar. Thank you very much for your attention, and please enjoy the webinar. Now I would like to invite Isabella Albrecht, our moderator. Please, Isabella, floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Ambassador, for inviting me to moderate the panel discussion. Thank you, ladies, for joining this important discussion. I would like to start by asking Ms. Katarina Areskog, Director Advisor focusing on EU and international issues, to give the opening presentation.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Isabella, and thank you so much, dear Madam Ambassador, for taking this excellent initiative. I think it's fantastic to have this these brilliant women pitching in their ideas on a very important sector, which is facing fantastic developments, I believe, in the years to come. And I'm very much looking forward to the panel discussions later on. And I'm in particular looking forward to hear more about prospects for Polish and Swedish cooperation, which I think are great. And thank you for giving me the possibility to kick off with some of my own FinTech thoughts. And I will focus, given my background, in particular on the wider European perspective. So as we all know, digitalization is truly transforming society, the economy, and the financial sector. The use of innovative technologies has led to tremendous growth over the last few years. And we now interact with our bank using mobile technology. We make payments, we transfer money, and we make investments using a variety of tools that we didn't even think existed just a couple of years ago. So artificial intelligence, social networks, machine learning, mobile applications, cloud computing, and big data have given rise to new services and business models. So in Sweden, we have seen companies such as Klarna, Tink, iSettle, Trustly, and Lendify pop up and grow amazingly quickly to become large companies. And they cover everything from payment solutions like Klarna or savings and loans like Lendify. And according to Invest Stockholm, the investor appetite for Stockholm's FinTech scene is very great. And Stockholm ranks third in Europe after London and Berlin for total FinTech investments. And that's based on a 3-year average from 2017 to 19. And as Madam Ambassador said, Poland is the biggest FinTech market in Central and Eastern Europe, and a hub for financial technology in the region. According to the Polish FinTech map in 2019, there are around 190 financial innovation businesses operating in Poland, and I'm sure many more today, and they're covering all main segments of the market. And of course, the fact that Poland is the 8th largest economy in the EU makes Poland in particular attractive in this sector. So all these new technologies, they benefit both consumers and companies because they give greater access to financial services, they offer a wider choice, but they also increase efficiency of operations. And we have seen all this actually during the pandemic, because here we saw how online identity verification made it possible to open accounts and use financial services at a distance. And the growing proportion of in-store payments are now digital and contactless. And of course, e-commerce has significantly increased. And FinTech solutions have also helped to broaden and speed up access to loans, which has been very important, in particular loans supported by the governments in response to the COVID-19 crisis. And digital infrastructures have also become more important. More people access financial services from at home, and also employees in the financial sectors, they work from home. So a growing proportion of payments are made online. Online transactions in the EU now represent about 1/3 of overall transactions volume. And this is to be compared to 1/5 in the beginning of the pandemic. So just in a year, a very explosive development, you could say. But the transformation has only begun. Financial services will continue to grow over the coming years, and I will come back to one important factor because of that. But there are challenges also, and I would just want to highlight 3 of them. The cyber attacks on financial institutions have unfortunately risen by 38% during the pandemic. And the European Commission has made some proposal how to counter this, for example, by the Digital Operational Resilience Act, DORA. Supervision is also becoming much more complicated because there are so many different kind of tech companies entering financial services. That means that value chains are becoming more complex, making it hard to overview the risks. And this needs to be very closely followed, I believe, in order to make sure that you really can assess all the risks. Thirdly, a third challenge relates to electronic identity, which is key to the fintech sector. ID solutions exist in Poland, in Sweden, in the other Nordic countries, also in Belgium and in Italy, but much more needs to be done for online financial services to work effectively cross-border. And of course, we all would like to see one digital ID solution for the whole of Europe. So there are challenges, but I believe that solutions will be found because the opportunities are so large. And the EU led the way in opening up the sharing of data on payments accounts as part of the PSD, the Payment Services Directive. And this is what we call open banking. But now we are about, and that's where I think the great opportunities are, to take a big, enormous new step from open banking to open finance. And that means that your financial data on such as mortgages, savings, pensions, insurance, and consumer credit, basically your entire financial footprint, that could be opened up to trusted third party if you agree. And that will mean that new fintech companies will appear, providing you with investment advice and attractive savings and loan possibilities. You will be in charge of your own data, and you will decide whom to give the data to, and not only concerning payments accounts as today. So by 2024, the European Commission expects Europe to have an open finance framework in place. So that is my conclusion, that the fintech future is very bright. Lots of opportunities and challenges, but challenges that can be handled. And I think Poland and Sweden are 2 leading countries in this field. And if they work together, I think they can speed up and shape developments and also benefit, of course, from the great opportunities. So I'll stop there and thank you very much and give the floor over to Isabella.
Thank you very much, Katarina, for this big picture for fintech sector. And I would like to now invite Ms. Eliza Kruczkowska, Chief Innovation Officer at Polish Development Fund. Hello, Eliza. The air is yours.
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you for the invitation, and it's great to be among such amazing women and great initiatives. Thank you, Ms. Ambassador. As we heard from Katarina, a big picture about Polish-Swedish relationship. Today, I would like to share with you some data showing how the Polish tech ecosystem looks like on the Central Eastern European scene. I work for Polish Development Fund, which is actually an institution that went to Sweden a few times when we have created our fund of funds called PFR Ventures. We talked to local Swedish representatives where we got inspiration when we have created our fund of funds to see what kind of best practice we can implement to Poland. So I can already say that already 4 years ago, there was a very tight collaboration between those two countries, where we were setting up PFR ventures. When you look at the whole ecosystem, definitely you can analyze three things: skills, talent, and capital. What we had a few years ago, definitely we had talented people, because there are many cities and usually students are surrounded around big university cities. They were highly skilled because perhaps you have heard about the tech talent in Poland. What we were missing was capital, and that was our main challenge a few years ago, to set up a great support for those talented, skilled people to have good access to capital. So far, when we look at the whole Central Eastern Europe, you can see already a few unicorns, and potential future unicorns, and few rising stars. And like when you compare Central Eastern Europe to Western Europe, still you will see that how fast during the last few years venture capital investments speed up in our region. And when we compare Poland to the whole, I don't know if you can see it correctly, with a population of 30 million people, we are the largest economy with 30% of the GDP in the region. I mentioned that we have very highly skilled people, and definitely in the rankings, Poland is in the global rankings of the programmers. We are third in the world in Java programming and algorithms. We have as well very strong programmers in the whole Central Eastern Europe, because Romania, Czech Republic, Hungary are as well having a huge number of developers in the region. So very often companies decide to have their software houses supporting their businesses from this region. What we were working on, not only to create a good conditions for creating access to capital, make it easier to access the capital in Poland, but as well to encourage people to set up their own companies. So when we look at the industry distribution, you will see that almost 1/5 of Polish companies in the tech scene are enterprise software makers, and FinTech is actually the third category most popular among startups created in Poland. When you look at the funding grants, Poland made the biggest amount of funding grant since 2013. Estonia was the second, is the second, although the amount of money they have raised is still much bigger than in Poland, but we try to catch them. So far in Poland, there are around 97 venture funds working in our country. Around 41, they are in our portfolio. There are other institutions as well, from private and public institutions that support VC funds. If you are interested, which are, we monitor all of them, and we monitor their performance. We monitor their portfolio companies. I'm happy to share this knowledge. And what is the most interesting, in my opinion, is that we manage as well to attract foreign capital to be co-invested with Polish capital. So we attracted funds from UK, from USA, Austria, Germany, and we very open as well to work on the on this international sphere. And to our surprise, 2020 was like a very, very good year because the value of investment was almost twice bigger than comparing to 2019. And we already know that 2021 will be as well even better than 2021. So definitely there's a huge rise in terms of VC investment in Poland. Yeah, I divided as well the deals quarter by quarter. I shared with some of you the presentation, and basically our goal is as well to look for companies that from Poland with our seed capital are ready to conquer the world. And we always as well happy always to talk to some foreign investors abroad, and always happy to talk to Swedish investors who would like to co-invest within the Polish companies. Thank you. If you need some more data about the ecosystem in Poland, I'm always happy to share those and share those information with you. And thank you very much for inviting me. Regards from Warsaw.
Thank you very much, Eliza. So we will now move to the panel discussion, Women in Tech, Opportunities for Business Cooperation between Poland and Sweden. And my role will be mainly to facilitate the discussion between Lena Hackelorer, founder and CEO of Bright, Katarzyna Dorsey, a founder and CEO at Yosh AI. Hello. Erika Eliasson, chairwoman of Swedish Financial Technology Association, FinTech. Raiha Buchanan, CEO and co-founder GigaPay, and Małgorzata Majorowska, Operations Director, Cashless Poland Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, according to market data forecast, the value of the global fintech market will reach 305 billion by 2025, growing at a compound annual rate of 22%. And COVID has accelerated a lot of that growth. Although 2020 was an uncertain year, the fintech industry ended strongly, with investment reaching a total of 44 billion, a rise of 14% from 2019. This is why fintech sector is the one which has been driven innovation for the last decade and now aspires to be not less impactful in the new digital decade. With 450 fintech companies operating in Sweden, it is perceived by Swedish fintech sector representatives as a great opportunity for Sweden to become the best country in the world in the financial technologies. That would actually mean to dethrone the United Kingdom, which has now, despite of the Brexit, the #1 position for fintech investment in Europe. But Nordic countries, despite of many challenges, have been doing well in the fintech innovation and the development of the right ecosystem for years now. It is the same for Poland. Madam Ambassador mentioned already, and also Elisa, that Poland is the biggest fintech market in CEE. Last week, actually, Global Finance names the world's best financial innovation labs, and among over 30 entities, it recognized 2 financial innovation labs in Poland, one in Warsaw, Alior Bank, RBL Start, and one in Kraków, the ASECO Data Science and Artificial Intelligence Lab. ASECO also earned recognition as the outstanding fintech innovator in Central and Eastern Europe for 2021 for development of AI-based solutions that predicts customer behavior. The Polish fintech sector is very diversified in terms of specialization, and here I would like to highlight that the Kościuszko Institute, which I'm the chairperson of, is proud to gather in its Polish cybersecurity cluster, Cyber Made in Poland, also fintech companies specialized in cybersecurity solutions, such as Cyberus Labs, Ident, or digital fingerprints. And Katarina already mentioned that cybersecurity threats are one of the greatest ones for the financial sector, so we need those solutions. For both our countries, the fintech sector is an important part of the economy, and even with many successes, we still need to focus more on how to support it and how to give this industry the right conditions to flourish and how to build the right ecosystem, not only in individual countries such as Poland and Sweden, but also in the EU en bloc. This also means taking our Polish-Swedish collaboration to the new level, and we will talk about it today with my panelists. Ladies, I believe that we can all agree that fintech companies, Polish and Swedish, are and will remain an important drivers of economic growth and now recovery. But where are the greatest challenges and threats for fintech in a time when we are facing unprecedented overlapping with economic crisis started by COVID-19 pandemic? We can see simultaneously digital transformation of traditional sectors all across economy, including banking, insurance, financial sectors that is driven by tech advances. We see financial uncertainty. We see a change of customers' behaviors due to numerous lockdowns in the pandemic era, as well significant rise of cyber attacks, including on the financial sector, which was already mentioned. And how can fintech and should fintech navigate through those times? What are your observations and advice? I would maybe start with Lena. Can you give us your opinion about the threats and challenges?
Absolutely. I think it deserves perhaps a bit more nuanced answer. As some of the other ladies have already touched upon, I would say that some areas of fintech have actually benefited from the ongoing crisis. I'm personally in the payment space, founder of Bright. We do instant bank-based payments, and I think the payment space generally has probably more benefited than has been challenged. But I think some of the challenges are, of course, that in a time of uncertainty generally, depending on what kind of business model an individual fintech will have, of course, decision makers may step away from making changes. So I think in some areas, what we have observed, at least in our business, is that sort of customers have maybe held off of making changes because they want to see how the ongoing crisis develops. We've seen talent becoming more hesitant, maybe less likely to change their job. And I think fintech being a fast-growing factor, or basically fast-growing area, it depends on a constant inflow of talent. I'm probably speaking on behalf of several of the other ladies that are currently recruiting, that access to talent is a really big factor. I think that's a threat if there's a less fluent market for talent. And then generally speaking, of course, as financial markets develop in Europe and technology improves, there is a need for closer cooperation, which I think has also been somewhat slowed down in some areas. I'm obviously biased towards the payment space, so I'm curious what the other ladies have to say in their respective areas.
Thank you very much. Now let's move to Katarzyna. Katarzyna, please, the air is yours.
Hello, and thank you very much for the invitation. I'm the founder and CEO of Yosh AI. Actually, we're supporting fintech companies in the communication between the companies and their users. We are often offering AI solutions within the communication space. So like, let's say, voice assistant, text assistant, so in all these areas. So for us also, it was actually positive impact of COVID. Because what we saw is that a lot of companies, they were absolutely forced into moving into automation, into solution based on cloud. That again, I think that here we have a really big factor that due to security, obviously, most of the financial institutions are working in on-premise solution. Here, more innovative solutions are cloud-based solutions. So because they had to adapt really, really quickly to this new situation that happened, actually, I believe that it was, in terms of innovation, very positive impact. So also from our side, actually, we grew and we see a way bigger openness from the financial institution with implementation of this new innovative cloud-based solution. So I overall see very positive impact, and I really believe that that a lot of good innovative things will happen, how the products will develop. Thank you.
Thank you, Katarzyna, for this positive scenario. Now let's give a floor to Erika. Erika, what is your opinion on threats, challenges, or maybe the same as Katarzyna, you can see only or mainly the positive side of this situation in which we are now?
Thank you. In February, Swedish FinTech, we published the FinTech report for 2021. And what we could see is that about 93% of our members, they are affected by the crisis. Of course, this was in the society in general. But 53% of the companies, of the member companies, says that they have experienced a negative effect, and about 22% positive effect, and 25% they haven't noticed any different opportunities. They haven't seen any negative or positive effects. Of course, our members has been affected by the crisis, and of course the digitalization and the fast forward in changes of people's behavior has been good for digital business models, and that's been good for our members. But at the same time, the risk aversion from investors has been a negative effect for our members, because a lot of the Swedish FinTech members, we have around 80 member companies. They are quite small. 89% has less than 200 employees, and around 58% of member companies has around 11 to 50 employees. And for the smaller companies, it's been more difficult to secure capital for further growth. So we have seen a lot of investments in Swedish FinTech during 2020 and in the beginning of 2021, but mostly to bigger FinTech companies in the later stage. For example, Klarna, they did a really big equity funding. I think it was in the beginning of 2021. So, but it's companies in the later stages. So a little bit negative effects on to secure capital because of the risk aversion. But we can also see that the infrastructure, the financial infrastructure in Sweden has been mostly controlled by the big banks, and I think it's the same way in a lot of countries, that it's difficult to challenge the banks in the infrastructure built by themselves. And what we can see now, the last, I think it was a question that arose during 2020, is that a lot of FinTech companies has problem with getting the business account, the bank account, and also because the control of the infrastructure can be a problem. But we also can see that the banks has created a good infrastructure for FinTechs. For example, its bank ID has been absolutely crucial for the growth of the FinTech sector. So opening up the infrastructure even more is very important. And what we can see now during the COVID, maybe the opposite, that the banks are more afraid of it's more difficult for fintechs to get a bank account. And the knowledge of the politicians and for the Swedish FSA and the regulations authorities must be more aware. They must know more about the different business models, because everything is moving very fast. And in the report, Swedish FinTech, we could see that around 65% of our members, they say that the knowledge of their business models, the politicians and the Swedish FSA, they have quite low knowledge of different new tech and new business models. And I think that is really crucial for Sweden and to become this new London. The Swedish FSA needs to be more into the new. They must have in their regulation letter. They must have a very clear objective to work for innovation, and that is something you have it in the UK, that they have the sandbox, for example. So a little more work for more innovation in Sweden and also on the EU level.
Thank you. And to come back to what can be done by governments during the next round of the questions, I would highly recommend your report to everyone. I went through it before the panel discussion. It was very interesting and informative for me. I would now like to give a floor to Raiha. Please share your point of view with us.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today. My name is Raiha Buchanan, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of GigaPay. We've built a salary payment infrastructure specifically for the gig and creator economy. And we've been able to do that thanks to a lot of the regulatory changes that have happened and fantastic fintechs that can support us. So for example, we work together with Lena's company Byte and also with Tink and a few other players supporting our infrastructure. In terms of COVID, as Lena said earlier, it's been a more of a nuanced situation, I would say, and there's been both positive effects. So from creator platform businesses, we see that there's been a lot of businesses that have really flourished during this time period, which has of course benefited GigaPay. And at the same time, with these high unemployment rates, people are now moving towards a different type of work and are now looking to participate in a different types of employment that perhaps they were doing previously. And then if you sort of look on the flip side at the change of consumer behavior, that has also greatly benefited us at GigaPay. But sort of to touch on a few points which Erica mentioned, we're very early stage fintech, so I can definitely, it resonates with me when you speak about the risk appetite of investors during this time period, the ability for banks and the FSA to understand these new business models like GigaPay that have come out. There is, I would say, a lower sort of understanding or ability to move fast, even though a lot of banks have put in place initiatives to support fintechs. It's not sort of followed throughout the whole institution, which can of course make some can really slow down a process, especially when you're moving fast as a fintech. And I would say that one area that has been fantastic for GigaPay and for Sweden as a whole is having the bank ID. And I would say that there is a requirement or demand, I would say, within the industry that there is a unified identifier in the EU that would allow this sort of faster developments to happen. And I know on an EU level that there are initiatives in place, but unfortunately they're still moving rather slowly. So that's definitely an opportunity or perhaps a challenge. But I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Małgorzata, we cannot see you, but I believe we can hear you, and your voice is very important to hear. The air is yours.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry for the problem with my camera. Yes, but I hope you can hear me at least very well.
Good. We can hear you.
Yeah. So I'm Małgorzata Majorowska. I'm working in Cashless Poland Foundation. So from my perspective, I will agree with Elena and Katarzyna, I guess, because from my perspective, from the payment infrastructure and from the payment industry, we can see that the crisis, which is after the pandemic of the COVID-19, is like something which is more advantage for the payment. Not that it was not that bad. It was like challenging because all have to start very quickly, and we have to very quickly react for the online world, and everything have to switch for the online. But also the most important for us, for the Cashless Foundation, is that the people were start using their cards they wanted to make a much more cashless transactions in the shops, in the market. So that was the big thing for us, because as a Cashless Foundation, we are growing the market of the POS devices on the Polish market. So as we can see, the pandemic was the time when the people which were not convinced for the terminals till that time, they were convinced by the customers for having that, because they were thinking that it is much safer for paying not by cash. So that is the advantage which we saw from perspective in the payment perspective in Poland.
Thank you, Małgorzata. So let's get back to the issue on how our both governments can help to solve those challenges, but also incentivize the sector's growth in this quite positive for the sector time. Also, what still should be and can be regulated on EU level to help FinTech flourish? What role does public versus private sector involvement play? And additionally, how can the startups' growth be supported? Because big portion of FinTech companies are startups by nature. So I would like to hear your point of view on this matter, and maybe this time we will start with you, Małgorzata.
Of course. So the public sector plays very important role in the supporting the development of FinTech technology, as you can say before that. So I think that active dialogue between the entities from the financial sector with the complement legislative bodies are the central bodies can help minimize or even remove the barriers for the FinTech market, or the, as you can say, as said before, the startups. So this is the main thing that I think that the only public administration can only public administration has the mechanism to remove the most of the barriers. So the involvement of the public sector is in the digital transformation process is the thing which is very, very important from my perspective. On the other hand, the private sector has the experience in practice and face challenges from the financial market on the daily basis. There are also involvement of the bodies which can lead the support for the development of FinTech technologies. Yes.
Can I add on this?
Yes, sure,
please,
of course.
Yes.
Great. I would like to mention one huge barrier that we face. Actually, we face it because our partners on the financial sector are facing it. As I mentioned before, our solution and most of new solutions are based on cloud. And as we know, financial sector comes from very traditional on-premise solutions. So with all the new law around GDPR, which I really appreciate, and I think it should be in place, but there is a huge need to also adapt law to allow cloud solution, yes, which absolutely fulfilling all the GDPR requirements, but still, just to mention, banks don't even want to start and implement some of our solution only because that the process with the Polish institution is called KNF, takes about half a year of filling the paper. So they know that they will pass it, but it's just amount of paperwork behind it is absolutely huge. So this is the whole issue, not just for Poland, but for whole EU, how to really allow more advanced solution, cloud-based solution to be implemented in the financial sector. Thank you.
Yeah, so that was exactly what I wanted to say, that the legislation have to be adapted, because the fintech industry is the very elastic, and it can very shortly adapt to what is happening on the payment, on the other sectors, but the thing which is and of course the startups which are reacting for what is happening, but the thing is, like, if you don't have the legacy which can adapt to that also, this can be a problem. So I think this will be the most important part.
I can see Lena would like to take the air. Please,
Yes.
we can be spontaneous here, ladies. So whenever you would like to take the floor, you are very welcome.
If I may, yes, I'd like to actually jump into the last perspective here on the topic of cloud. I mean, other than, of course, some sort of the complexity in selling cloud-based solutions, I think I can go back a step and say my business is fully cloud-based. And that in itself has been a discussion with regulators in the past. Now, fortunately, in 2020, 2021, we're in a better position than we were a couple of years ago, but only a few years ago, this was a big discussion around where will the service be based? How does this relate to US regulation? Is that in line with EU regulations? So I think that definitely has been a big topic, and to some extent still continues to be. But taking it even one step further, when we talk about regulation, I'm not sure what everybody else's experience is, but I think one challenge that should be addressed on a governmental level is that it is not always so that the national legislation of a fintech and for example, the SFSA here in Sweden, the supervisory authority that we are supervised by, at least, their guidelines are not necessarily aligned with EU regulation. So, for example, there are sometimes quite clear discrepancies between what EBA basically states on a European level, for example, so that's the European Banking Authority, versus what, for example, the Swedish AML Act stipulates. And those two cannot always go together. And obviously there's differences in Europe between, Sweden is one example, there's other supervisory authorities in other markets, and other markets may have a more liberal stance on their interpretation towards EBA. And for example, I think a lot of fintechs in Europe are regulated in London or in Luxembourg. And I think more long-term fintechs will look at where sort of the regulation is perhaps more favorable for their particular business area. And that will, of course, also impact how attractive a particular market will be as sort of the building ground for a fintech. Don't get me wrong, I work in a fairly highly regulated area. We shuffle funds through the European banking system. AML is very much close to my heart. So my point is not that sort of one should look for loopholes in the legislation, but of course, if there are discrepancies, that does create complexity in any business. It generates cost for analyzing these regulations that are often complex, and they require expertise advice, often from the Big Four. So I think if I were to sort of address the public sector, I would say that is something that needs to be paid more attention to.
Very good, very interesting. How about Raiha and Erika point of view on what government can do to help
Yes,
the fintech sector?
there is one point that Erica alluded to earlier, and I know initiative that Poland has, but Sweden does not have, and that is and I've seen it being rather successful, for example, in Singapore. And if we just to talk about how government can support fintech growth, and that is by providing a regulatory sandbox so that that fintechs and other businesses that are looking to explore different business models can test that in a more secure environment before releasing the solution. So I think that's one thing, even though I know that there are EU efforts to create a European or EU level regulatory sandbox, I believe that Sweden could benefit from having that. And I don't know if anyone has, this is actually more of a question point as well. I mean, I know that Poland has a regulatory sandbox, but I don't know how it's actually being used locally. Does anybody have any sort of experience with it? Now I'm speaking to the Polish companies that are participating. No, perhaps not.
I don't know that actually, but we can of course come back to you with some more information later on. Erica, what is your opinion about the obstacles that you face?
Yeah. Like all startups, fintechs also have challenges with the capital and talent. They need to attract talent from abroad or from Sweden. And in Sweden, for example, the government they have this qualified stock option for key personnel, but the fintech sector is excluded from, even though they have broadened the suggestion. So that's really strange, but that's on the Swedish level. But I think in general there's a problem with politicians, and that we're talking a lot about the fintech sector and the importance of the fintech sector, but sometimes that's not so much done as we wish it would be. So, for example, how to attract talent, and that is the personal stock options is a very good tool for that. But then the fintech sector is almost all the fintech companies are excluded. So I really can't understand why. And of course, the capital. It's important that we can keep the big fintech companies, so then they can be the ecosystem to invest in new other fintech companies. So it's very important that, for example, Sweden can keep the big fintech companies, so they can provide with talent and capital for new fintechs. But that's on the capital and talent is a general problem challenge for the startup sector. But in fintech, especially the one thing that we need to live with is the regulation, the regulatory part. And as I said before, the Swedish FSA must have this clear objective to work for innovation, and that should be overall in Europe. And I really agree with I think it was Lena or Raya that said that that will be if you are different, if the FSA in different countries do different interpretations, the competition isn't even between different countries. And also what we said about the bank ID in Sweden has been absolutely crucial for the Swedish fintech sector. And if we want to have it so we can move forward, we can expand more easily into the other European countries, it's very crucial that we have an identification that can be on the EU level. For example, the EU does, but we haven't got that yet. And also for the PSD2 has been extremely important for the fintech sector, and it's very promising if we look at the open finance, not on open banking. But what is also important is that the supervisory authorities need to they must strongly demand that all parties covered by PSD2 comply with the regulation, because today the APIs isn't that good. The standard isn't that good as they should be. So we have all this really good directives and incentives, but we need to make sure that it's the reality of the fintech companies. And before I joined Creab, I was a deputy CEO at Lendify and been a part of the team building Lendify from a loan book at 10 million SEK to a loan book around 3 billion SEK. And it's not easy to challenge the banks in the infrastructure that they have built. And I think that the authorities needs to address that problem.
Very good. I'm keeping my fingers crossed for those improvements. And once we will be able to solve the problems, then of course we can look into the future. And thinking about the future, I would like to ask you, ladies, what in your opinion are the greatest future opportunities for fintech related to emerging and disruptive technologies advances, cloud, or what already was mentioned, and AI a little bit, but can we dive deeper into that? Can we expect the new big thing in this sector arriving from new technologies, blockchain, advanced data analytics, central bank digital currencies, AI again? So what is your opinion on that? Maybe let's start with Raiha. Can I give the air to you?
Oh, I was actually thinking I would enjoy listening to to what the others would say first. Maybe not directly related to the areas that you have identified, Isabella, but I think, and I know that there's a lot of wealth of knowledge from the payment side and the lending side here on this panel discussion. But one thing that I'd like to identify is that fintech is not, of course, not just those areas. It's also about enabling other areas as well. So, for example, with GigaPay, we're looking specifically at the future of work and building fintech to support more from the compliance and also from a payout side, sort of those two intersections. And if we sort of take one step further back and we think about the way that people are consuming work and also the livelihood that's derived from that, and it is very much tied to financial services and fintech, and also on the compliance side as well. There's a lot of things that can be improved for those in this gig and the creator economy. And you see this now with decentralized finance and the generation of tokenizing work or assets work, and also the different currencies that are being generated through that. But I think that sort of talking about the PSD2 and taking this idea of that your financial information is your own, you can also apply that to work as well. And as a passport from, if you're working on multiple platforms, who actually owns that passport right now as a giga or as a creator? And today that's owned by the platforms. So taking this idea and a lot of great things that have happened in fintech and with the PSD2 and other initiatives that we've seen being beneficial to the fintech space, how can that actually be applied to other areas as well, is something that I sometimes think about. But so I know it's not really directly related to the question that you had, but I think there's a lot of benefits from fintech that can help disrupt other areas as well.
Thank you. Elena, does the future is technologically bright for you?
I hope so. I'd like very much to think so. My business focuses a lot on API first architecture. So what Erica was saying resonated a lot with me. Sort of the quality of the APIs, for example, is technologically will for us be key to scale further. We've seen in my particular line of business, instant bank-based payments using APIs under PSD2 to initiate payments for consumers. has seen a lot of change these past couple of years, moving from screen scraping that was actually not officially sanctioned by the banks to being able to use an open banking API. I personally believe that that will become the future once the APIs actually deliver on their promise. Certainly that is not always the case today, which is why you saw me violently nodding when Erica was describing that. To give you one example, there's actually no SLA requirement from EBA today on the availability of an open banking API, which means that in theory, a bank is, of course, so they have to offer an API, but they don't have to ensure that it's up at any given time. So they could have a service window of a whole day. Imagine trying to pay online and not being able to do so for a full day because the bank has a maintenance window. That would be as if you couldn't use your credit card for a whole day, for example. So that is a problem today, but as that goes away, I very strongly believe that there will be much more opportunity, especially also under open finance. I think we'll be seeing business models that we can't even conceive today, potentially, on the opportunities that that will bring. So that technological advancement, at least in my area, I have a lot of faith in. And so I'd like to think that that looks bright.
Thank you so much. Katarzyna, your company, Yosha AI, you said that it is not directly creating fintech solutions, but has been supporting the growth of this ecosystem with new technological disruptions. What are they? How do they help fintech? Can you give us some examples, please?
Yes, definitely. Okay, so let's look from two perspectives, from the user perspective that is using this banking services, and after from the bank perspective, how we can help. So it's all about the convenience, yes? It's all about saving time for the user. So basically all the AI solutions we are offering, let's start from the user part, is that, for example, each of us will have our own virtual assistant, yes? So every time, for example, when I'm driving a car and I have some spare time while I'm driving, obviously, I cannot touch my iPhone, but I can speak to my voice assistant. So I can check my bank account, I can make some transfer, I can ask for basically anything, right? This also, a personal assistant will help us and will remind us based on our history, just make it easier, yes? But also this way of communicating through the voice, it's very, very convenient for the user, yes? And again, we can do it while we are in the kitchen doing other things on while we are driving, for example. And these are the solutions that we are providing. Also with this voice assistant, we are offering 24/7. So again, anytime, and there is no waiting time. You don't need to wait for the agent. So it's available. So everything, it becomes just easier and easier. And it wasn't implemented until now because this, let's say, accuracy of, and the convenience of the whole dialogue wasn't really there. But finally, we are at the point that it's really almost impossible to recognize if you are talking to a human agent or you are talking to this AI agent, so something like this. Then we're also connecting the solution through all the possible communication channels. So all of us are, okay, here, all of us are on maybe on WhatsApp, Messenger, this. So we need different information on different channels of communication. So again, because we just need this information. So for us is to proactively give user this information instead of user going and looking for this information. So again, for all the users, is just saving on time and convenience. Why it's important from the other side, from the company side? And again, all these AI solutions give them automation, yes? So definitely they are significantly cheaper. So this is the first advantage, but again, giving users of this company completely different level of convenience in the service, yes? So we will be every sector basically will be going towards this AI voice and text assistant, depending on the channel of communication. And this is something that we are offering. Like, for example, one of our clients, Santander, for them, it's very frustrating process for all of us. We are calling bank or we are calling an institution, press 1, press 7, and we are all waiting, okay, what's my number? And then press 3 and then press 5. It's gone. So now you just call and you say like to the human being, I want to extend my contract or whatever, I want to make a payment, and that's it. And we are directing to the right to the right agent. Then there's the whole authentication process. Again, it can be 100% handled by the voice assistant instead of by a human agent. So it's quicker, it's efficient, and it's cheaper for the company. So all this way how we are communicating with, at the end, banks and all the financial sector institutes absolutely will be changing. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, a very positive view.
Always, that's what startup
A very good approach. I mean, I think that this is the secret of the success. Małgorzata, we know that cash is king no more. So which technological innovations and are and will in the future support cashless transactions? Please, the air is yours.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so the innovation is the very important part in our part of the market in which we are in the foundation are working on. So the first is that the pandemic has shown us that the customer behavior is the one of the drivers which make also the merchants which are convincing the merchants to go to the cashless transactions. So that is why the cash is not the king, but we have to give the customers, the end customers, the possibility to choose. So it should be his or her decisions what they wanted to use. So if it will be the cash or it will be the cashless transaction. So what we are doing and what we are working on is like to give them the chance for that. So making the growth of the POS devices on the Polish market. So this is our goal for now and for the future. And if we are talking about the the innovations, I guess all what we can do and what we can see on the market and what is the FinTech also mainly is the mobile. So a lot of people are using the mobiles. A lot of people are using the mobile wallets, and I guess the plastic will maybe disappear or not be very popular as it is for now. But we will have the cards, but in the wallets in our phone, and this is for first thing. And the second thing, the using of the mobile phones, I guess it will not be only the end of the customer. So he is paying by the phone, but also the solutions like the soft POS, I guess, is the future. So using the phone like for the terminal, like it is the terminal, the physical equipment which all of us we have, and this is the future which I'm looking for.
Less plastic sounds also very good. Erika,
yes, from the ecology,
yes,
from the eco perspective, that's for sure.
Yes, that's true. Erika, you have the bird's eye view on the whole sector. What are your expectations as for the big technological innovations, please?
I don't know if I have the bird's eye, but what I think is that we have seen a lot of business to consumer companies offering products like business to consumer, but we have seen it for a while, and I think we'll see more the business to business products. So fintechs will become an enabler for the banks to be more efficient and more consumer friendly, because you can see the returns, the profits of the banks are still very high, a little bit too high maybe, but they are not as high as like 10 years ago, because they have like really big inefficiency in their IT infrastructure. And I think the fintech companies can be a really good enabler to helping the banks. So maybe a little bit more of cooperation in that area. And I'm not really into blockchain or crypto. I don't know it, so I'm not a deep. I don't have the deep understanding. But what I can understand that I can't really understand how big it can be. If it's like if crypto and blockchain can do for transferring value in the same way that internet did for transferring information, then it will change the financial industry in their ground. So I think it will be very interesting to see what where it will end up, or how it will evolve during the coming like 5 years or something.
Mm.
I also think, I've just jumped in with that. I also think it's very exciting seeing what's happening with blockchain, but I can just imagine the complexity from a regulatory and from a compliance perspective. I mean, how do you manage that? And I think that will be a large challenge that many governments will face.
Yeah.
So exciting times ahead.
Yeah, and you can see also that's what it's very difficult to regulate how we use the internet. So I think maybe that will be the same discussion. How can and of course there will be some bad guys, bad women in this area as well as on the internet in the beginning. So it's exciting times, and the future is bright.
Very good. Thank you. Since we are running out of the time, I would actually try ask one more question, because this is probably crucial for the purpose of this meeting. First of all, we would like to meet each other and discuss some threats, opportunities, and the future. But the aim was also to enhance our cooperation between our countries, between startups in our both countries. What, in your opinion, are the opportunities to cooperate on the fintech market for Polish and Swedish companies and actors? How can innovation be transferred, or is that not possible due to competitive reasons? Maybe. What is your opinion? I will leave the direction of questions, or order of answers, sorry, for you. You can just take a floor and conclude on that.
I can just say that we can see from our members that they start in Sweden, and then they go into the Nordics, and then they go into the European Union countries. So or more into the Europe. So I think it's a learning process, and as the companies grow bigger, the Swedish fintech companies grow bigger, they need to go. They must go international, and then Poland can be a good new market. So I think just to know more and about the culture, and also how the regulatory environment in Poland, I think that's a good start, because the Swedish fintech needs to go global. Otherwise, it will be too small. And then they go often to Nordics, but it could be Poland.
Thank you. Noted. Well noted. Lena, what is your opinion? I can see that
I'd be happy to continue.
Yourself, so please do.
I personally think the attention on Poland as a market is going to increase. As we saw sort of at the outset of the session, the growth is accelerating. If we just look at e-commerce, the Polish e-commerce market is growing fast. Digitalization is accelerating, and I think there's a lot of key parameters that will make the market a lot more interesting for different fintech models. What I can say personally from my vantage point, in the area of instant payments, there's already two very strong local providers on the ground that I think together account for some 30-40% market share, both of which are local Polish companies. So clearly the innovation capacity in that area is already there. So I think there is already some, shall we call it, cross-pollination happening across Europe. I'm sure that there is local Polish businesses that already look at other markets in Europe and look at what is working well. But personally, I think if we turn it around, I think the attention of other European fintechs on the Polish market is going to increase. So I think there's definitely some learnings to be shared and some inspiration to be had. And then, of course, competitive barriers will become a topic, I'm sure. they always do. But in terms of knowledge sharing and insight, at least, I think there's an opportunity.
Very good. Katarzyna, please, what is your opinion on the perspective for cooperation?
Forward for international expansions. We are already in a few European markets, so
that's true.
I'm really hoping that soon we'll also find a way to work with the Swedish companies.
Very good.
Maybe I can add.
Please.
So I think there's a lot of, as Erika said, and also Lena, when you're a Swedish fintech, then the natural progression is to go to the other Nordic markets before perhaps taking on UK, Germany, and so on and so forth. However, with Poland rapidly growing and a lot of fantastic innovation coming from there, not only on the innovation side, but also from a talent perspective. And as Eliza had presented earlier on, Poland ranks highest in CEE for certain STEM areas. So I think there's definitely a talent hub there, and there is an innovation hub there, and it's a much larger market than Sweden as well. So there's a lot of parameters that makes it exciting for collaboration. In terms of more practical activities that could happen, I know that FinTech, so the local FinTech hub, I guess you could say, has had a lot of great collaboration with other Nordic equivalents. So perhaps if there's a Polish equivalent, then that would be very exciting to include in those discussions as well. Because I have very low visibility to other fantastic founders in the area and what innovations that they're doing. So I would really enjoy having discussions with them, the challenges that they're facing.
And Małgorzata, please, what you think about the collaboration perspectives?
Yeah, so what I can say, like because the Cashless Foundation Poland is mainly focused on the Polish market, I guess we can search for some experiences from both perspectives. The Polish market and the Swedish market is the one thing, and the second thing, we are open for the acquirers from all over the world. So also the acquirers which wanted to operate on the Polish market and give the chance for give the services for the customers in Poland. So for me and for me it's like the main thing and the most important thing is like sharing the experience and the know-how, how to work with that processes and the innovations which we can see on the other markets, which we can adjust to our markets also.
Thank you very much. Maybe just one more quick round. It is said that fintech innovation, to do fintech innovation and to work with fintech, you need to have this certain mindset to break things, disrupt, question, innovate, which sounds like a natural environment for women. Just, brief answer on the question whether the fintech sector, in your opinion, is women friendly, or are we facing glass ceiling in this sector? If yes, if there are really unseen and unbreakable? If you could briefly conclude on that, Erika, please.
Nothing is unbreakable. But I think it's a little bit of a boys' club because it's a lot of the people knowing each other. So, but that can be changed. So it's really important. That's why it's so good that we have female funders and owners here, because I think everything comes down to owning companies and because the owners they decide over the companies in the end. So I think it starts there, and then you need to take risk. Women needs to be need to take risk and start companies and invest in companies. So I think it's like in the society as a whole. I think you need to look to the ownership and where the capital goes. So more women as founders. So that's very good to have some of you here. So that's excellent.
I absolutely believe that glass ceiling, it's a myth. Okay, there are some factors, okay, we can fight with and we'll fight with every day, but absolutely, I believe at the end we are stronger as women, more persistent, and we really care and we never give up, at least most of us. So I absolutely believe that, and we have already many examples how it can be done, and it's really important what you are doing here, showing examples, how it's done and that it's happening. So I think very soon we'll see many examples how it should be done.
Yes, and I think that initiatives like this, which we are participating right now, and the supporting of each of us, and having the experience changing with other women is also a very important thing. So thank you for that initiative, because I think this make us stronger and stronger.
I think it's to say that there is no glass ceiling. Of course there is a glass ceiling, because if there wasn't, then there would be more female founders today, and there would be more opportunities for women to be having those leadership roles, and we need to acknowledge that. At the same time, I'm very honored to be on this panel, because there are pioneers here. You are role models. You are a woman that other women look up to, especially when they think about, okay, taking on that risk of starting your own company or taking on those leadership roles. And there needs to be, I think, a greater acknowledgement that women, there's a lot of positive things about being a woman, which Katarina mentioned, but at the same time, we are not as good as men as networking and supporting each other to take those positions. And as Erika said, FinTech, especially in Sweden, it's a lot of a boys' club right now, and it is changing, but we also need to find better ways of supporting each other as well, because the more ownership that we have, the better that we are at supporting each other. The younger generation, there will be more women that will come forward, and then create a better ecosystem for women in the area. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, that we are making the changes, but there's more that needs to be done.
I agree with Rhea there, especially on the last piece, that there's more that needs to be done. I think we also have to acknowledge that we're in tech, and tech generally is a more male-dominated domain. Quite simply, it's the reality. We all have a large share of developers in the business, and there is the talent pool for male developers is just so much larger. Outside of perhaps the technical domains, I think we've already seen great change. I can say personally, in my business, we have more female managers than male managers at this point in time. Obviously, we're young, and sort of to scale that into a couple hundred people might look different, but that's where we are right now. And I think also, personally, I'm a strong believer that sort of strong women recruit other strong women, and that will be driving the change, quite simply. So I'm very positive about the outlook moving on.
I absolutely agree with that. If you tend to recruit strong women, recruit strong women. So I think that that's a really good way to go.
Thank you very much, ladies. I think that this round can serve as actually summary of what we said also previously, with a good yet another good recommendation for how the sector can flourish with our help. It was also really empowering, I believe, for many women, who are actually watching us today, but we would not have a good conclusion without Madam Ambassador voice. She initiated this important discussion, and I'm deeply appreciate for that. I hope we will continue our dialogue within FinTech sector, but maybe within other sectors which will drive our digital future forward. Madam Ambassador, please, the floor is yours to conclude the meeting. I would like to thank you, ladies, for joining the panel. It was my pleasure to help in this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies. First of all, for accepting my invitation, and thank you for the very high level, very professional discussion. I hope to see you very soon in the real life. And there is a lot to do together in the FinTech. So keep your optimism, keep hard working, and see you soon. Thank you very much. All the best and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.